Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us for our webinar this evening. We're so happy to bring to you Jacob Troy this evening. We do invite you to visit with us at the ICOI at our summer symposium in San Francisco, August 14th through 16th. It'll be a wonderful educational event. Doctor.com will be exhibiting there. They'll be in booth 511, so I invite you to go and visit with them. Without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and get our speaker introduced. There will be a question and answer session at the end, so I'll invite you to hold your questions till the end, and you'll be able to use the question name to go ahead and ask your questions of Jacob at the end. But I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Jacob Troy, who is a senior practice consultant with Doctor.com, a portfolio company of GE. Jacob and his team of Google-certified experts have worked with hundreds of healthcare providers, including members of the ICOI, who are now at the top of 1% of doctors reviewed online. And they have implemented the programs and delivered thousands of new patient visits. Jacob, we can see your screen, so you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Lynn, and pleasure to be here tonight. And I definitely want to give a big thank you to Lynn, as well as Dr. Judy, for inviting us to speak here tonight. Over the years, I've had the pleasure of working with many ICOI members and continue to do so, and it's definitely always a pleasure when I get to speak to such a prestigious group of dentists. So I'm excited, and I hope you guys will be able to learn something here tonight. So I want to get started by talking about reputation management for dentists. What does that mean today? How has it changed over the years? And how can we leverage that to be successful? So we're really going to focus our conversation around what we call the reputation management trifecta. Okay, so we're going to focus on search and directory listing accuracy, maintaining accurate information online. We're going to talk about having great online reviews, and we're going to talk about having a consistently strong patient experience so that when patients leave your practice, they feel good about recommending you to their friends, to their family, and about leaving an overwhelmingly positive review. So this really starts with search visibility, being consistent and credible everywhere online where a patient could potentially find you. So the things that I want to focus on particularly, again, really starts with this concept of NAP consistency. So this is name, address, and phone number. Being verified on Google, having all of your listings claimed, but not just claimed. It's not really enough to just have a phone number and an address. You also want to have fully optimized directories. So you want to add pictures, you want to have rich content. The more information that you can have for patients to make a decision, the better off that you're going to be. And then, of course, your website. You really want to show off your personality. One of the things that I tell my clients often is you want to separate yourself from the sea of sameness. You want to separate yourself from the dentist down the street. And I think the big advantage that the members here tonight have, the ICOI members, is that you can offer some advanced implant techniques that really a lot of other dentists can't offer. And really there's a lot of credentials that you have that a lot of other dentists aren't going to be able to offer. So I really encourage you to highlight those and point those out and make sure that patients are well informed on that topic. And while we're on that line of your website, look, 60% of patients nowadays are going and using mobile devices to look for your practice. If you don't have a mobile optimized website, I guarantee that that's costing you patients and it's hurting the way that you're potentially showing up online. And then the last aspect that I'm going to focus on is reviews. We want to talk about quantity. How many reviews do you have? Velocity. How often are you getting these reviews? And diversity. Do you have reviews on multiple websites and not just one? So I want to take a look at a live example for you guys. We're going to take a look at a dentist. What this is testing for is seeing if it passes Google's mobile optimized test. You can see he does not. And also, over half of his information online right now is either inaccurate or it's missing in some shape or form. You can see he's got some inaccuracies. If the name of his practice is Barco Dental, it should really be listed as Barco Dental on every single site. You can see he's got a couple different names for the name of the practice. He's got some inconsistent addresses, a few missing phone numbers. But really the big issue that I want to draw your attention to is the reviews. So you can see Dr. Barco here actually has a decent amount of reviews. He's got a total of 12 reviews between RateMDs and health grades, but unfortunately he has a 3-star average. He's got no reviews on Google, no reviews on Yelp, and you can see he's got a 1-star average out of 1 review on Vitals. So this is somebody that, candidly, if a patient were to look him up based on reviews, he may miss out on patients. And again, it's not necessarily because he's not a great dentist. It's just because this conversation is happening with or without him, and he hasn't seemingly taken control of that conversation just yet. Now, here we have an example of a dentist who's actually taken control of his reputation. Now, full disclosure, I do want to say Dr. Schreiber in the DDS group, he's one of our clients. He's been a happy client for a long time, and we're continually helping him improve his reputation. You can see here, he's actually got, between wellness.com and Vitals, 2 top healthcare sites that show up when you look up any doctor online. He's got 30 reviews there for an average of 4.5 stars on Vitals, 5 stars here on Wellness. You can see he's got you know, a 5-star average on Health Grades, a 4.4-star average on Google Places. You can see that all of his directories, as I scroll down here, are listed as correct, as accurate. So again, really a drastic difference from a 90% accurate across the board. I do want to stress that this is all work that is very difficult to accomplish. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So even though you do see a 90% score here for him, and that is obviously much better than what we saw for Dr. Barco, it is something that took us some time to establish, and it's a continuing work in progress. But I think that gives you a pretty good idea of what you should be aiming for. First action item that I want to give for you guys tonight, I really encourage you to go home. As I said, I'm going to provide you with a link at the end of this presentation. Run your own scan, see what your reputation looks like, see how accurate you look online, and you really want to make sure that you're as consistent as possible across all these directory listings on Google, on Bing, and Yahoo. And of course, as I mentioned, it's not just about having the phone number and your address listed. You want to really evaluate your entire online presence, and this is going to include all of the credible reviews that you might have. And really important, the healthcare sites, I can't stress this enough, are the sites that really show up when you look up any doctor. So you want to have a great presence there, and you want to establish a strategy for great reviews. You want to have a mobile-friendly website, and whatever the information is on your website, it has to be consistent across the board, all directories. And please, you know, one of the best investments you can make in your practice is take some professional photos, add those online, add some content, give your patients some differentiating factors that you can utilize. How do we get you started on the road to success? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to start getting more reviews, but not just any good reviews, positive reviews with a lot of content. And the fastest and easiest way to do that is to make sure that you ask at the end of every visit. You don't ask, you don't get. So if you're going to ask, though, you want to make it convenient, right? Patients don't want to take too much time out of their day. They don't want to be creating multiple accounts to leave your reviews on multiple sites. So make it easy for them. And statistically speaking, patients are more likely to leave you a review if they can do it at the point of care. If they can do it right in your office before they go home. And also, it's really important to stress to them that, look, you take this feedback very seriously, and that you're utilizing this to improve the quality of care that you can provide. And of course, you want to make sure that these reviews are seen broadly. So it's not enough to have reviews just on one website out there on the internet. You want to have reviews all across the internet, particularly on the top healthcare sites, which Google really views as very authoritative. So sites like vitals.com, wellness.com, and health grades, those are really going to be the very important sites. And you want to make sure that those reviews appear authentic, that other patients really believe that those are coming from verified patients, and that's why collecting them at the point of care is the best way to ensure that. Now, you know, we talked about, you know, bad reviews sort of being a hazard of occupational hazard, and we understand that it's going to happen from time to time. And in fact, I want to share a story. Actually had a client not too long ago come to us and said, look, I'm having this issue with this patient. There was a billing issue with the insurance. The insurance messed it up, and now, you know, the patient is taking it out on me, and they've gone to, I think the site was ripoffreport.com, and they've left this overwhelming, you know, calling me evil and all this other crazy stuff, and I just can't seem to get it taken down. So it was a very complicated case, and And look, I'll be honest with you. This information I'm about to give you is stuff that a lot of firms would charge you a lot of money for. But I'm happy to give you some of our secret sauces here tonight, and I'm going to give you some tips. If any of you out there have ever experienced something like that, which I think is very common in the healthcare space, here are some actionable tips to take care of that. So the first step is you have to realize that anytime you look up your name, so Dr. Jane Doe, for example, there's about 20 spots that you could potentially occupy on the first page of Google, right? And what you want to do is you want to take the step to fully claim and optimize all of the top healthcare sites, because those are the ones that are typically going to show up first. And we know for a fact that Google is more likely to show those profiles at the top if they have rich content. So, pictures, bios, what types of insurances do you take, cases that you specialize in, all of that really rich information, accreditations, right, list that you're an ICOI member, all that is going to be very important. And then you're going to want to have that strategy really in place to maintain a 4-star average in all these different sites. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with rich snippets. So when you go online and you look up a doctor, a lot of times Google will provide you with a little sneak peek, if you will, of what's written on some of these healthcare sites like Vitals and Healthgrades. So that's really important. The more reviews that you have, the more of that Google is going to show on the front page. And then really taking advantage of a lot of the free social media accounts that are out there. I can't stress this enough how many times I see this. I talk to doctors that haven't even taken the time to really claim a Facebook page. So there's a lot of free resources out there available to you as a practitioner and as a business. And what I would suggest is if you don't have a Facebook or a Twitter account, you don't have to be active on it. You don't have to be tweeting or doing any of that. It's just as simple as claiming it, adding a picture, adding a bio, and that's going to be enough for Google to want to show those pages on the front page. Definitely, your LinkedIn account, and then even sites like Foursquare and SlideShare and SoundCloud, sites that you might not even have to use ever again, but as long as you claim them and you add a picture of the practice and some information on there, that's going to be enough for Google to take care of that. And this is some really great stuff here, because I know that it can be an issue for a lot of you, and you want to make sure that you're not losing patience to this. And the great thing about this strategy here is that eventually, if you do have this issue, it's going to start pushing that negative stuff onto the second page and eventually onto the third page. And once you're on the third page, it may as well have never existed, because everybody knows that nobody goes onto the third page of Google. And once you can get it there, then you've successfully gotten rid of that potentially bad review. So that's a strategy there for any of you that may have been struggling with this issue in the past. So now that we've talked about implementing the strategy, collecting reviews, the importance of having a 4-star average, the importance of maintaining all of your information accurately online, I want to talk about perfecting the patient experience. So I want to give some tips. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of practices on the office management side and really working with them on how to create a better patient experience. And these are just some of the tips that I've picked up from some of my clients over the years. And some of these are very simple. It really starts from the inbound call experience. Do you have a professional message? Is your staff answering courteously? Does it sound like they're smiling over the phone? Does it sound like they're genuinely welcoming and happy to speak to this new patient? I think a lot of you know that there's a lot of anxiety over going to the dentist. So the more that your staff can make them feel at ease, the better off that you're going to be from the get-go. And then there's appointment request. If you don't currently have this available to your patients, I strongly suggest that you find a solution to do this. And it doesn't even have to be a patient actually picking a specific time and a specific day. Even something as simple as just allowing them to send you an email at midnight when they've gotten home, so that way they can get it off their plate and your staff can just call them back to set the appointment. That goes a long way for patient satisfaction. So if you don't have that on your website, I certainly suggest that you do. It's not on here, but another great experience is having something that can publish reviews on your website. If you're going to be collecting those reviews, let's make sure that they're showing up on your website. So that's very important as well. And then your waiting room experience. So, do you have a water cooler, magazines? And if you have magazines, are they something that you as a patient would want to read? So know your patient base and have some magazines for them. Make sure that they're recent. If you're looking for some whitening cases, maybe you provide some coffee, you know? Anything that patients might find enjoyable is great to have laying around. And then, having a concise presentation of the treatment plan, what next steps are, what they can expect, all of the fees involved in the services, and who's going to be involved in the treatment plan, to just really make the patients feel at ease. And then having a strong follow-up plan. So it's very important to note that every touch point opportunity that you have, if it's their birthday, maybe send them a birthday card, during the holidays, maybe an email. Any touch points that you have to really remind your patients that you're there, that's going to create a more loyal patient base. It's going to start to create more referrals, more reviews, which ultimately leads to more patients, which leads to more revenue. Obviously that's the goal for a lot of practices. And then, the outcomes. So what happens, following up with them and letting them know on any treatment that they may have come in on, and continuing to check up on them, obviously is going to be vital as well for creating that very strong patient experience. So in conclusion, the main important takeaways here are that you really want to establish and maintain a strong search engine presence with NAP consistency, right? That's name, address, and phone number across the board. Make sure that your practice shows up with the exact same name everywhere where patients could potentially find you online. And you want to claim and optimize those. Again, you guys are members of the ICOI. There's a lot of things that you're able to offer from an implant perspective that a lot of other dentists aren't. And so you want to highlight those. You want to stand out from your competition and make sure that they know some of the additional accreditations that you've had to go through to achieve your status. And then, really implement best practices to collect a high quantity of good reviews. That's going to go a long way to increasing your revenue. And really, I would invest in the best possible in-office experience for your patients. Again, have snacks and anything else that you can have available. So if they do have to wait a little bit, at least it's a little bit more enjoyable. And be as proactive as you possibly can with your outreach, and really staying top of mind. So again, my name is Jacob Troy. As promised, there's a link here at the bottom. You can see you can run a free 360 scan of your practice. That's going to allow you to really take stock and give you a full blown out picture of everything that's out there, how many directories you're currently missing on, if you have inaccurate information, your reviews, and it'll also let you know if your website is mobile optimized or not. That is my direct number. I'm happy to take any questions directly from you guys, or feel free to email me, and I'd be happy to discuss what your practice is going through and see where we might be able to help you out.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Please feel free to use your question log on the side of your screen to enter any questions you'd like to ask to Jacob right now. We are recording this session, so it will be posted to the members-only section of the ICOI area, so that if you wanted to show this to any of your staff members who may have missed it, or if you wanted to walk through it one more time, you certainly could do that. Any questions, we'll take them now. There is no continuing education credit for this evening's presentation, but it does count towards the quality of your practice and how much you can do with your practice. So we're always glad to bring these types of events to our members. Jacob, can you speak to the areas of the world that you work with? Do you work with clients in only specific countries? Are you global?
That's a great question. So while we do have plans to expand into a few other countries in the future, currently we do only work with dentists and doctors based here in the U.S., but we do have clients across all of the states, in small towns, big towns, and everything in between.
How about communications with patients, things like sending emails? Do you recommend that you include this type of stuff in an email that you're going to be sending out to your patients? How often should you let them know about this? What would you recommend on that?
The more the better would be my recommendation. So every time that you have an opportunity to touch base with a patient, you should be requesting reviews. It should always be included in all of your emails as a link, creating a link at the bottom of your page that says, please review us on, any of the sites that you're looking to currently get reviews on. That should always be included every time that you communicate with your patients.
So can you speak a little bit to having patients do reviews in the office? What's the best techniques to have that done?
That's a great question. So really when you're looking at collecting reviews in the office, the two main things that you want to look at is where are the reviews going? Because if they're not going to be going anywhere, then it's certainly not worth your time. And two, how many sites am I possibly going to be able to get these reviews on? And so one of the strategies that we implement, again, happy to talk a little bit more about that, is we have a partnership of network sites where we're able to publish those reviews to top sites like Vitals and Wellness.com and Healthline and many others. So there's other solutions out there that can publish reviews to a couple of sites, but certainly not to the extent that we do. And so we feel that the best strategy is really through building the relationships that we have with a lot of the top healthcare sites to get those reviews out there.
Could you reiterate again for us, how would you manage if someone had posted a negative review on a website? What's the best way to manage those negative reviews?
That's a great question. Yeah, so the best way to manage those negative reviews is twofold, really. The first is, again, implementing the strategy to get more positive reviews, because the best way to get rid of a negative review is by overpowering it with overwhelmingly amount of positive reviews. Now, if it happens to be a circumstance like the one I described for our client, where there's a review on like a ripoff report or something like that, those can be a little bit more pernicious. And so the strategy that we implemented is really taking hold of all the different directories that are available to you, all of the free social media accounts that you can claim, and creating a profile on there, adding pictures, adding content that's going to essentially lead to that review getting pushed off of the front page of Google and buried onto the second and into the third page.
What would you suggest if a patient accidentally makes a mistake in giving you a review? Like they give you, they want to give you a 5, but they give you a 1 because they don't understand like a rating system or a star system?
Sure. So what's really important, if this is happening in the office, is your staff can be there to sort of help them navigate if they don't understand the technology. But what we recommend is really to have a strong team taking a look at the reviews and making sure that everything looks okay. We've actually seen it on our end. We'll have some reviews come in that have fabulous comments and talking about how amazing the doctor is, and in that exact situation, we've actually flagged it and sent it back to the doctor so that they can correct that with the patient and just let them know, hey, clearly you left us an amazing review, but you seem to have gotten confused and left the 1 star. And a lot of sites will actually let patients actually change the review. So that's something that they can do as well, as the doctor can encourage the patient to, but you have to catch it fast, and that's why we have a team in place that goes through all these reviews as they come in to make sure that we catch those types of errors.
The grading sites, the Vitals and Health Grades, how long, can you speak a little bit about how long they've been around and on the market?
Oh, sure. So sites like Vitals and Health Grades, they've been around for about 7 or 8 years. So Health Grades has been around for over 10 years, actually, in Vitals, but Wellness.com has been around for about 7 or 8 years as well. Collectively, they have about 50 million patients per month utilizing their sites to find reviews and to find information about doctors. So they're definitely very, very, very keyword optimized. So they very frequently show up when any patient is looking for any sort of healthcare providers. And really, what we like to say is that they're the last mile for any patient search. So these are very niche sites and very healthcare specific sites. So you can be assured that a patient that's on Health Grades or is on Vitals is very, very serious about making a choice, and they're really just, again, on their last mile of research before calling in and making an appointment with a doctor.
I'm going to encourage any of you, if you have specific questions to ask about cost or cost analysis for your practice, please go ahead and contact Jacob individually on things like that. Again, we'll be posting this to our archive section. We also want to thank Jacob and Doctor.com. Again, you can meet with them out in San Francisco, booth 511 in the exhibit hall. We'll also be following up with an email with some information that they can go ahead and give to each of your practices individually. So Jacob, I want to thank you once again, and thank you all for being with us this evening, and we hope you have a wonderful night.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you all of you for tuning in tonight, and look forward to speaking with you further.